50 years ago, at a railroad siding at a killing field called Auschwitz, a German SS officer named Joseph Mengele, Dr. Joseph Mengele, stood on the platform and with a flick of his finger sent tens of thousands to the gas chambers. Among those arriving on the trains that came in day and night were children. And among those children were twins who were spared the gas chambers only to become fodder for Mengele's medical laboratory. Some he castrated or sterilized. Others had limbs amputated or dye injected into their eyes to see if they would turn blue, all in an effort to produce in a laboratory a master race. One twin used for experiments, the other held as the control.
One day I became extremely ill after a visit to the lab, and I was taken to a barrack that was filled with practically living dead.
So there you are, a living, dead person, knowing it.
Well, Mengele came in every morning and every evening, twice a day, with 4 other doctors. And he declared, very sarcastically laughing, "Too bad, she's so young. She has only 2 weeks to live."
Right in front of you.
Right in front of me.
To Mengele, the twins were just tattooed lab specimens. Eva Mozes and her twin sister Miriam, no names, just numbers, 7063 and 7064.
He wanted to play God. He wanted to find, by trial and error, how to create blue-eyed blondes, males or females in multiple numbers.
3,000 twins became Mengele's guinea pigs. When Russian soldiers liberated the Auschwitz camp in 1945, just 150 were still alive, and Mengele was gone. In the years after the war, the twins scattered and lost touch with each other. Some ended up in the United States, but most came here to Israel. And as they grew up, they buried the horrors of Dr. Mengele's lab deep within themselves. And Mengele? They say he died in Brazil in 1979. But his name still dominates the German town of Günzburg and is a trademark proudly displayed on the farm machinery the family company manufactures. We went to Germany to find out how Mengele had escaped the authorities and why none of the relatives or company employees who helped him hide has ever been prosecuted. The only one who would talk to us was Hans Klein, the German prosecutor in charge of the Mengele investigation. In the United States, they would be prosecuted for harboring a fugitive.
I know this. But there's a difference between the German law and the American law.
You couldn't go after the family?
No.
No, under your law?
Under our law, it's impossible.
What's impossible for the twins to grasp, what agonizes them to this day, is that Mengele's experiments, all of that torture, turned out to be nothing more than perverse medical quackery. Among Mengele's victims were Kalman and Yehudit Baron, 14-year-old twins. We found Kalman in Israel. Yehudit lives there too, but she refuses to talk to anyone about Auschwitz.
This terror, this blind fear, we never knew what's coming. It was either a cold stethoscope on your back, or a needle, or just a tap. We never knew what's coming.
The degradation of the human being that could do that to another child.
Yes, yes. That someone in his right mind, in his sick mind, could conceivably use a human being, a child, and put him on the table and try an exercise so that we can find out what happens. He died, never mind. Where's the next one? Let's try it again in a different part of the body. Maybe the response will be different. This is what we did for Mengele.
I think in this place, in this terrible place, it was very important that you are two together, two sisters together. One keeps the other.
I was continuously fainting out of hunger even after I survived. That Miriam saved her bread for 1 whole week. Now, can you imagine what willpower does it take?
Because she was hungry anyway.
Sure, sure. to save and send the bread to me.
After they left Auschwitz, it was 40 years before Eva and Miriam could talk about it.
Only in 1985 did she ask me, did you get the bread? And I said, yes, thank you very much.
Really?
Yeah, she never asked.
She never knew in all those years?
No, and we never discussed anything from camp.
Most of the twins, like Eva and Miriam, kept silent all these years. Some say people didn't want to listen. Others say they simply weren't believed. And many never discussed what happened to them with anyone, not even their twin. Renee and Irene Gutman had just turned 6 when they became part of what Mengele called his zoo. We found them in New York 50 years later. After Auschwitz, they were adopted by an American family.
She was a cheerleader, and I played basketball.
The all-American kids.
Definitely.
Oh,
Fit
yes.
right in.
Did you?
Not really. Tried. Looked like we did. On the surface. Always fit in on the surface. But never inside. Always felt apart, different. Couldn't talk about it.
You couldn't talk about it?
No.
There was a sense of embarrassment. Whenever we spoke to the normals, that's you good people, we found that there was a chasm, an unbridgeable chasm. They found it hard to listen, let alone empathize with what we are saying.
Some of the twins spoke out for the first time in a recent book, Children of the Flames. But the silence first began to crack in 1985, when Eva and Miriam led a small group of survivors back to Auschwitz to remind the world that Joseph Mengele, one of history's most notorious war criminals, had escaped. After Dr. Mengele fled Auschwitz as the war ended, his family here in Germany helped hide him from Allied search teams and then paid to have him smuggled out of Europe and into South America. And as he moved from Argentina to Paraguay to Brazil, his family and the family company sent him tens of thousands of dollars, all the while insisting to authorities that they knew nothing. Finally, a skeleton believed to be Mengele's was dug up in Brazil in the summer of 1985. Friends said he had drowned. Documents proved that the family firm in Germany had helped hide him for more than 30 years. But as we said, the German government never prosecuted anyone. Still, executives at the Mengele factory in Günzburg get very edgy when people come around asking questions.
Joseph Mengele is not here, yeah, and has nothing to do with the company Mengele.
The name Mengele is visible in 3-foot-high letters on the building of their factory. They don't have to be ashamed of anything. While behind the scenes and at night, both figuratively and physically, they have supported dear Papa for the last 40 years with money, people, organization, and everything around.
The family was even arrogant when authorities tried to prove once and for all that those bones from Brazil were Joseph Mengele's. In 1990, scientists used a new technique to extract a so-called genetic fingerprint from the skeleton. Then they asked Mengele's only son, Rolf, for a blood sample in order to make an exact match. But for more than a year, Rolf refused to give the sample. We went to Germany to ask him why, first visiting his law office in Freiburg, where Rolf's partner stopped me just inside the door.
When will he get here?
I don't know.
Will he get here? I mean, today?
Then
Is he hiding? Well, let me tell you what happened. His law partner says that journalists come looking for him every month, that he's not here. His partner will not tell us where he is or how to reach him.
But we were able to find him anyway, in another town at a company he runs which makes, of all things, children's clothes and toys. We saw Rolf through a window, but he refused to come out and talk to us, just as he was refusing at the time to talk to German authorities.
He doesn't tell you why?
sagt mir nicht, warum. He didn't tell me why. He don't cooperate with me.
Do you pressure him?
Nein. Under German law, that's impossible for me.
But Hans Klein seems to have found a way around the thou shalt not pressure law. He simply threatened to dig up the bodies of Joseph Mengele's other blood relatives from the family plot in Günzburg to get a sample from them. Suddenly, Rolf changed his mind. Last month, he gave the blood, and now the Germans are waiting for test results they hope will close the case once and for all. But the twins may still not be satisfied, because solid proof of Mengele's death won't help them learn anything about his experiments. Only a few pages of documents about his grisly work have ever surfaced. The twins have no idea what Mengele put into their bodies.
I remember blood taken from my neck, and I remember lots of x-rays and being strapped to a table and with a doctor with a scalpel in his hand.
That was 50 years ago. And hard.
It's so vivid. To this day,
Irene has multiple sclerosis.
You're in a wheelchair. Is that, do you think, related in any way?
I have no way of knowing.
Because you don't know what they injected you with?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
I feel that as a human being, we have a right to know. I would like to know what I was injected with. I would like to know what my sister was injected with.
It is possible that one day Eva and all of the twins will find out. Remember, it was the Russian army that captured the Auschwitz camp and the papers the fleeing Germans left behind. At the end of the war, most of those documents were shipped to this special archive in Moscow and promptly labeled top secret. Now, with the collapse of communism, Western historians have been promised access to the files. Not a sure thing that Mengele's records were saved, but for the twins, some hope, if not some justice.
I don't think that there is justice at this point. Justice has long past its time. But at least the truth would be very, very helpful to us.
50 years after Auschwitz, the stirrings of a new Nazi movement in Germany scare the Mengele twins. That's why they felt compelled to speak out. They see that sign on the factory in Günzburg and they say, I too have a name worth remembering.
Please, the society that allowed, as a matter of course, the name Mengele to act and be a part of society, it speaks volumes about the mores of Germany and its government.
You think that name should have been wiped away and...
For the next 1,000 years, it should have been mentioned only at night.
Are coming up. And a deadly nerve agent is creating quite a fight, one that won't be settled by any munitions. We'll have the latest. And another one bites the dust of the campaign trail. We'll tell you who's throwing in the towel now. Reg Taylor brings...
Call Yotzet Savabi Yisrael, Kifkudu Otam Utzivatam, Atava Aharav.